The claim. When I bought my new home, I couldn't believe my luck. A quiet neighborhood, friendly faces, and a spacious backyard, something I'd always dreamed of. It had tall trees, a small fire pit, and a cozy wooden bench where I could relax every evening. For weeks it felt like paradise, until Karen appeared. Karen was the self-appointed HOA enforcer. She didn't need a badge. Her clipboard and confident walk said it all. The first time she came over, she smiled too much to be friendly. "Hi there, I just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood," she said, glancing at my backyard. Then came the bombshell. "You know that space behind your patio isn't actually yours, right? It's community property." I frowned. That can't be right. My house listing clearly said I had a private backyard. Karen crossed her arms. "Well, the HOA board decided long ago that all backyards without fences are shared for community use. You'll need to move your furniture and grill." I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking. "Sorry, but this is definitely my property. I have the papers." Her smile vanished instantly. "If you don't comply, you'll face HOA action." Within days, I started getting violation letters on my door. Unauthorized use of community grounds. One even demanded I restore the area to its shared condition. It was absurd. I checked my property deed, survey, and even called the county office. Everything confirmed that the yard was mine. Still, Karen didn't stop. I caught her taking photos from behind a bush one afternoon. When I told her to leave, she said, "I'm documenting community misuse." That's when I realized something important. Reasoning with her was useless. So I decided to make a permanent change. I contacted a fencing company and began plans to enclose my backyard. If Karen thought it was community property, I was about to show her where my line stood. Literally. When the workers arrived and started digging, Karen came running, shouting from across the street, "You can't build that. You don't have HOA approval." I simply smiled and said, "I have city approval. That's all I need." Her glare could have melted steel. From that moment on, I knew this wasn't just about a fence. It was about control, and Karen wasn't going to give it up easily. But neither was I. The fence wore. The next morning, the construction crew returned to finish the posts. I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, enjoying the sound of progress. But peace never lasts long when Karen's around. Within minutes, I heard her voice echoing across the yard. "You can't just put up a fence wherever you want." She barked at the workers. One of the guys pointed toward me. "Ma'am, you'll have to talk to the homeowner." She stomped over, clipboard in hand. "This is a violation of HOA policy. You didn't submit a request for fence approval?" I smiled calmly. "Karen, I got a city permit. The HOA can't override that. It's within my property line." Her eyes narrowed. "You think you can ignore the community rules?" I shrugged. "No, just ignoring your version of them." That didn't sit well. Within hours, I received another official notice on my door. Same handwriting, same signature, Karen, HOA, committee chair. The paper demanded I cease fence construction immediately. I ignored it. The next day, she showed up again, pacing outside my backyard with her phone out, snapping pictures. My dog barked wildly. "Quiet, boy," I said, watching her from the window. I could almost hear her muttering, "Community property, my foot." By evening, the fence stood tall, clean cedar boards, smooth finish, perfect privacy. It felt like victory. Karen, however, lost her mind. She posted on our neighborhood social media group, "A resident has illegally fenced off a shared area. This kind of selfish behavior destroys our community spirit." The comment section exploded. Half the neighbors sided with her. The others told her to relax. I stayed silent. I didn't need to argue online. That night, as I stepped outside to lock the gate, I noticed something odd. The latch was loose. Then I saw the scratch marks. Someone had tried to force it open. I checked my new security camera footage, and my jaw dropped. There she was, Karen in her pink robe and slippers, flashlight in one hand, tugging on my gate like she owned it. The next morning, I printed a still image from the footage and slid it under her door with a note. "Next time, I'll let the police see this first." Hours later, she marched to my house, furious. "You can't threaten me," she shouted. "I didn't," I said. That was a promise. She stormed off yelling, "You'll regret this." But I wasn't scared. I had proof, patience, and a brand new fence to keep the chaos out. Or so I thought. The confrontation. The weekend arrived, and with it came the storm I knew was brewing. Early Saturday morning, I looked out my window and froze. A small crowd was gathering on my street, people holding coffee cups, whispering and pointing at my fence. And at the front of it all stood Karen, clipboard in hand, ready for battle. She had turned my quiet street into a community meeting. I stepped outside, calm but alert. Karen smiled smugly. "We, the members of the HOA, have gathered to demand the removal of this illegal fence," she announced loudly, as if she were addressing a courtroom. I crossed my arms. "You're standing on my driveway, Karen. That's trespassing." Ignoring me, she waved her papers. "According to HOA Rule 7C, all open spaces must remain accessible to residents. You're blocking community access." A few neighbors murmured uncertainly. Some looked uncomfortable. Others avoided eye contact. I took a deep breath. "Karen, that rule applies to common parks, not privately owned yards. My property line is legally recorded with the county. Would you like to see the document?" She laughed. "Oh, please." "Those things are often outdated." I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. Then maybe this isn't outdated. The screen showed a video from my security camera. Karen sneaking into my backyard at 2 a.m., flashlight in hand. Gasps erupted from the crowd. One neighbor whispered, "Wait, that's her?" Karen's face turned red. "That's fake. You're editing things to frame me." I looked her dead in the eye. "That's you, Karen. You broke the gate latch too." I could have called the cops that night, but I didn't. "This is your final warning." Her hands trembled, but she tried to hold her ground. "You can't scare me with your toys. The HOA will make you pay for this." Just then, a police car turned the corner. I had already called them earlier, just in case. The officer approached calmly. "Morning, folks. We got a report about a disturbance." I handed him a printed copy of my deed and the footage. "Officer, this person has been trespassing and harassing me over a private property line." Karen began her usual argument, waving her clipboard like it was evidence. "Officer, this land belongs to the HOA." He cut her off. "Ma'am, according to these documents, this land is part of his property. You don't have any legal claim." She froze, speechless. The officer looked at her kindly but firmly. "I suggest you respect property boundaries and avoid further incidents." Karen muttered something under her breath and stormed away, while the crowd slowly dispersed. I finally exhaled, relief washing over me. For the first time in weeks, it felt like I had won. But deep down, I knew Karen wasn't done yet. She wasn't the kind of person to back off after losing once. And I was right. The court order. A week passed after the confrontation, and the neighborhood finally felt calm again. The police warning had worked, or so I thought. I was enjoying my morning coffee on the patio when a thick envelope appeared in my mailbox. The sender's name made my stomach drop. HOA Legal Committee, filed by Karen Thompson. Inside was a formal complaint. Karen had taken the matter to small claims court, demanding I remove the unauthorized fence and restore community access. It was so ridiculous, I laughed out loud. Still, I wasn't taking chances. I gathered everything: the city permit, the county property survey, and every screenshot of her trespassing. My lawyer reviewed it and smiled. "You're completely in the clear. This will be over fast." On the day of the hearing, Karen showed up with her usual confidence, clipboard in one hand and a thick binder in the other. She started her statement dramatically. "Your Honor, this resident has fenced off land that belongs to our HOA community. He's divided neighbors, broken rules, and ruined our harmony." The judge nodded politely. "Do you have evidence that the HOA owns this land?" Karen flipped through papers, pulling out printouts from the HOA handbook. "It's right here. Rule 7C clearly states." My lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, that rule only applies to shared HOA-maintained property. My client's lot is individually owned and recorded with the county." He handed over my deed, survey maps, and photos of the backyard before and after the fence. Then he showed the video footage. Karen sneaking onto the property at night with a flashlight. The courtroom went silent. Karen's face turned pale as the judge leaned forward. "Ms. Thompson, is that you in the video?" She stammered. I was just checking for violations." The judge sighed. "That's trespassing. And this property is legally his. You had no right to interfere." Karen tried one last desperate attempt. "But the HOA rules do not override property law," the judge interrupted. "This case is dismissed. Furthermore, Ms. Thompson, you are ordered to cease all contact and pay court fees for filing a false claim." The sound of the gavel echoed. Case closed. Karen left the courtroom furious, mumbling about unfair treatment and biased judges. But I didn't care. Justice was done. A few days later, a moving truck appeared outside her house. Karen had finally decided to leave the neighborhood. The air felt lighter, and even the HOA president came by to shake my hand. "You handled that better than anyone else could have," he said with a grin. Now, every evening I sit on my patio behind my solid cedar fence. Peaceful, private, and finally free from HOA chaos. The best part? The same neighbors who once doubted me now wave every time they pass by. As for Karen, she learned the hard way that not every backyard is community property. Sometimes standing your ground and building a strong fence is all it takes to reclaim your peace.